Which is the oldest nation between Israel and Palestine? Such questions often come up when talking about the conflict that has gripped the area for generations. In answering this question, one has to talk about the names by which the two countries went prior to the present-day predicament. Most importantly, the focus normally tends to be on Israel for various reasons. For starters, it is the most developed nation of the two in terms of healthcare, economy, security, and quality of life. Nevertheless, what was its name prior to 1948? After the withdrawal of the Egyptians, Canaan became home to the Israelites and the Philistines. The first record of the name Israel is documented in the Merneptah stele, established by Pharaoh Merneptah around 1209 BCE. The Israelites settled the Central Highlands, a loosely defined highland region stretching from the Judean hills in the south to the Sumerian hills in the north. Based on the archaeological evidence, they did not overtake the region by force, but instead branched out of the indigenous Canaanite peoples. The population, at most 45,000, were poor and lived relatively isolated from the Canaanite city-states that occupied the plains and the coastal regions. In contrast to the Philistines, the Israelites did not eat pork, preferred plain pottery, and circumcised their boys. Sometime in the 12th century, the Philistines, who had immigrated from the Aegean region, settled in the southern coast of Palestine. Traces of Philistines appeared at about the same time as the Israelites. The Philistines are credited with introducing iron weapons, chariots, and new ways of fermenting wine to the local population. Over time, the Philistines integrated with the local population, and they, like other people in Palestine, were engulfed by first the Assyrian Empire and later the Babylonian Empire. In the 6th century, they disappeared from written history. The region of Palestine has a long and complex history, with many different peoples and cultures inhabiting it over the centuries. The name Palestine is believed to have originated from the ancient Philistines, who were enemies of the Israelites. The region was also known as Southern Syria during the Ottoman Empire's rule. Before 1948, Israel was non-existent as a nation after the tribes were scattered around Europe and the Middle East. Several internal and external efforts were put in place to re-establish the nation of Israel, but these were fruitless. The people of Israel were descendants of a man named Jacob, who later became known as Israel. Israel had 12 sons: Reuben, Simon, Levi, Judah, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, and Benjamin. 11 of his sons became the foundation for the 12 tribes of Israel. The first son, Reuben, did not have a tribe named after him because he had an affair with his father's wife. The tribe of Levi also did not have an inheritance because the other tribes were responsible for its upkeep. Joseph, the favorite son of Israel, received a double portion of the inheritance because he saved his family during a severe famine. Ephraim and Manasseh completed the tribes of Israel. The 12 tribes formed a loosely connected nation called the Kingdom of Israel, which was ruled by King Saul. There were 10 tribes in the northern part of the kingdom, and 2 tribes in the south. During the reign of King Rehoboam, the 10 tribes in the north broke away and formed their own kingdom. They kept the name Kingdom of Israel, and the south became the Kingdom of Judah. Several conflicts between the two kingdoms led to severe damages to the Kingdom of Israel. During the 8th century BC, the Neo-Assyrians attacked and destroyed the northern kingdom. The 10 tribes became scattered and are difficult to trace to this day. The Kingdom of Judah fell during the 6th century BCE and can be traced to the people occupying today's Israeli country. The Jews suffered under various empires and regimes, and millions of them lost their lives. The plight of the Jews over the centuries moved some people, who then tried to resettle them. The Jews who were in the minority in several countries faced discrimination and ill treatment, so the British decided to come to the aid of the Jews by helping them establish their nation. The Christians in Britain spearheaded and supported this movement. The efforts by the British were unsuccessful, but had sown seeds of independence in the heart of the Jews. The Israelis continued to face persecution, especially in Russia, so they decided to form a movement that pushed for the establishment of their nation. That was how the Zionist movement was founded. Zionism, founded in 1897, sought to relocate all Jews to Palestine because that was the original home of the Jews. However, the group encountered fierce opposition in the form of the Ottoman Empire, which controlled Palestine. This hampered their activities and their realization of the Jewish state. Arthur James Balfour, Prime Minister of Britain, proposed a plan to relocate the Jews to Uganda. This did not go down well with the then president of the Zionist movement, Chaim Weizmann. At a meeting with Arthur Balfour, Chaim Weizmann insisted that Jerusalem be given to the Jews. Weizmann then met with other prominent people during the First World War to convince them to allow a Jewish state in Palestine. Fortunately for the Jews, the Ottoman Empire, which controlled Palestine, fell after World War I. The Ottomans had aligned with the Germans, so when Germany fell, they also followed suit. The British then took control of Palestine and paved the way for the creation of Israel. Britain issued the Balfour Declaration, a statement that sought to establish Israel's independence. This move upset the Arabs who were living in Palestine at the time. Once the declaration was published in the newspapers, the British military attacked Gaza and Jaffa. The Arabs there suffered heavy losses and surrendered Jerusalem in the same year. Meanwhile, Jews welcomed the publication with joyous celebrations. The Israelis living in Palestine established a day called Balfour Day in honor of the publication. After the signing of the declaration in 1917, a revolution broke out in Russia, known as the October Uprising. This war caused the maiming and death of about 100,000 Jews, and as a result, about 40,000 of them fled to Palestine. Around the same time, the Greco-Turkish War also caused Greek Jews to flee to Palestine. Many Jews settled in the Jezreel Valley, which was a marshy area. The Jews from Russia were excellent agriculturalists, so they put their skills to good use. The Jews also purchased lands and formed an armed group called Haganah in 1920 to defend them. The Palestinian Arabs who were unhappy with the Jewish settlements began fighting them. The 1920 Battle of Tel Hai was one such conflict, where the Arabs attacked a Jewish farming village called Tel Hai and burned it to the ground. This caused rising tensions between the Jews and Arabs, which resulted in the 1920 Jerusalem riots. The riots took place when the Arabs were celebrating their Nebi Musa festival. During the riots, they attacked the Jewish settlements and destroyed them. The following year, what started as a conflict between Jewish groups ended in a war between Jews and Arabs in Jaffa. However, all these hostilities did not deter the Jews, as about 80,000 of them still migrated to Palestine. In 1922, the League of Nations oversaw the Declaration of Balfour and gave its authority. The Jews continued moving to and occupying Palestine. The Arabs continued their aggression towards the Jews, while the Jewish population began expanding. They were able to build their first university by 1925. In 1928, the Jewish community in Palestine held its first election, with the Jewish National Council, JNC, emerging as the winner. The JNC then started acting as a government, including imposing taxes on the Jewish community. In 1935, about 50,000 more Jews arrived from Germany. These were Jews who had successfully negotiated their transfer from Nazi Germany. This number increased to over 170,000 by 1936. The increase in the Jewish population of Palestine again became a cause for concern to the Arabs and caused the 1936 Arab Revolt. During the Second World War, the Jews were still present in Palestine, and they fought alongside Britain and the Soviet Union. Records indicate that about 1.5 million Jews took part in the war, with about 200,000 losing their lives in the Soviet army. This revolt forced the British to create a unique settlement for the Jews in Galilee and the western coast. The British then reserved the rest of Palestine for the Arabs, but the Arabs rejected this new development. The Arabs continued the riots, so the Brits had no choice but to cancel the Jewish settlement plans. This and other events angered the Germans, who began a systematic killing of all the Jews in Europe. This became what was known as the Holocaust, where about 6 million people of Jewish origin lost their lives. When the war started, the Jewish population was about 9.5 million. However, only about 3.5 million Jews survived the Holocaust. An inquiry was set up, and it was found that most Jews relocated to Palestine to reconnect with their roots, and then began migrating illegally to Palestine, where they occupied until 1948. Thanks for watching, and please don't forget to subscribe for more videos.